The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, thinking they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
Do you know what the uvula is? Until Saturday, I didn't. And I'm surprised that the number of people that I tell that word to understand what it is. I have, and I guess I'm still recovering from it, uvulitis. Yeah, you know that little thing that hangs down in the back of your throat? I thought that was a tonsil. Good thing I didn't go to medical school. No, that's the uvula. Mine got infected somehow, and the story of how I'm here today is one that I think you need to hear. I won't wear you out with it. There's a lot of sports to get to, including the Nats making the number one pick of the draft last night. But, learn something new every day, and how you also learn how ignorant you are about the human anatomy. So, anyway, I don't know if you heard the end of the show on Friday, but I was really struggling. My voice was fading out. I was beginning to sound like Babe Ruth at his farewell speech at Yankee Stadium in 1948. And I really wasn't in any pain or anything. It was just the voice was going, and I'd had some problems with it during the week, and I traced it back, I thought, and it may still be the case, to a flight that I took back from Seattle on Saturday, a week ago Saturday, and things just got progressively worse during the week. Well, by Friday afternoon, I had a terrible sore throat, one of the worst sore throats I've ever had. I did not have a fever, so I didn't think it was COVID, but just to make sure I took a COVID test at home. That turned up negative. But, boy, it was rough. I managed to sleep. I don't know how, but I got some sleep during the night, and I looked online that the walk-in clinic, which is near my house, the Patriot Walk-In Clinic, which is on Middlebrook Road in Germantown, about 2 miles from where I live, opened up at 8 o'clock on Saturday. So I got there at 8 o'clock, and it was great. They saw me in about 15 minutes. They took a test for COVID, which was negative. They took a test for strep, which was negative, and they took a test for flu, which was negative. The doctor came in, and she said that was all good news, but, yeah, I felt like crap. And she said, your uvula, and she looked in my mouth, is reddened and inflamed. And she said, even if I give you an antibiotic, that's not going to help. She said, how are you with steroids? And I said, well, I never really had much of a football career. No, I had used this type of steroid, prednisone, when I had poison ivy, and it was very effective. And she said, okay, good. So she prescribed that and another pill and some kind of a liquid that I could gargle with. And she said, this will make you feel much better. The pharmacy was just a block down, my pharmacy, CVS. And she said it would be a half an hour. Well, it was an excruciating half hour. It turned into about an hour. But I got my stuff. I tried not to be too much of a pain in the neck at the window there. And I got out with my medicines, and I got home, and I took them. And, yeah, by Friday afternoon, I was feeling okay and feeling better throughout the day yesterday. My voice, you can still hear, is a little bit scratchy, but I'm not going to have any trouble getting through the show. And just let me say that I'm a big fan of modern medicine, because if you're sick on a Saturday, good luck getting your doctor to look at you. And if you go to the emergency room, which in my case was not an emergency, I just felt crappy, they probably would have had me sit there all day. But these walk-in clinics, they're great. It's fantastic. And I even could have made an appointment. There was a guy who came in with his daughter who came in a little bit after me, and he was taken right away because he made an appointment online, which you can do. But even without that, just when I got there, being able to register, I was taken about 15 minutes, and all good. So let me just tip my hat, because I don't get sick that often. I mean, knock wood. As I've told you probably over the years, I've taken 3 sick days in the last 40 years. Yeah, last 40 years, I've taken 3 sick days, and that's only because I caught COVID from my granddaughter, who brought it home from daycare, and she didn't have any symptoms, fortunately. But I had some minor symptoms. I had the sore throat and the fever and all that. So I missed 3 days of work, but that was it. And so here I am today, having not missed any work. Conveniently happened on a Friday, and here I am on a Monday morning. Enough of that. If this were the number one pick of the NFL draft or the NBA draft, we'd be singing. Eli's coming. Yeah, Three Dog Night, almost 60 years ago. That's Eli's coming, and Eli is coming to the Nationals. It's just a question of when. He is only 17 years old. Eli Willitts, a shortstop from Oklahoma, youngest player in the draft. It's kind of like a Cooper Flagg situation. He reclassified. He should be getting ready to go into his senior year of high school. Instead, he's coming out for the MLB draft. Now, I guess if negotiations really bogged down, he can go play at Oklahoma, where his dad is a coach and his brother plays there. But he's coming here. His dad was a major leaguer, not of high note, but did play in the major leagues. His name is Reggie Willitts, and he was with the Angels, was an outfielder there. And the kid who was on the radar as a top pick, but he was not the top high school shortstop. The top high school shortstop was expected to be Ethan Holiday, Jackson Holiday's brother. Jackson Holiday now plays second base for the Orioles. He slid down to number 4 at Seattle, and the Nationals were expected to either take him or take Cade Anderson, left-handed pitcher from LSU. Problem with Holiday is he's represented by Scott Boras, and as is Cade Anderson, and Willitts is not. And for whatever they want to say about, their willingness to spend money, that the recently fired Mike Rizzo had the ability to sign anybody he wanted. He was not held back in any way. Every move they make makes you look at it and go, well, really? I mean, because look, the slot value that they have for Willitts because of the number 1 pick, and I can't get into all the minutia of how this is all determined, but there's a bonus pool based on where you finish in the lottery, and back in December, the Nationals won the lottery to getting the number 1 pick. So the slot is just over $11 million. According to what the Washington Post has, the thinking is that they may be able to get him below slot value on this. He is represented by a former Nationals assistant general manager whose name is Brian Mininti. I don't remember him, but that's WME Sports. And they think that it's possible that he might sign an under-slot deal, which would allow them to take other players later on in the draft. Now, they did take 2 others. They took a pitcher at, what was that, number late in the draft, late in yesterday's 3rd round, 80 overall. They took a Landon Harmon, 6'5" right-hander from Mississippi, and then at 49 in the 2nd round, they took South Carolina outfielder first baseman Ethan Petrie, no relation to, I think, Rob Petrie, 21 years old, played 3 years. Power hitter, hurt this year, so that may have dropped him a little bit in the draft, but he's big. He's 6'4", 235 pounds. So you can make up your own mind on this. Was this a financial move? Was the best high school shortstop in the draft Holiday? Should they have taken a left-handed pitcher from LSU, where the strategy of the organization under Mike Rizzo always seemed to be load up on pitching, get as much pitching as you can? No, that's not what they did. They took somebody who, I guess on the upside, will be in the major leagues in 3 years, probably more like 4, and still only be 21 years old. That's probably what's going to happen here. This is some of the react last night, and here's the draft pick that was made as he was taken number 1, with Rob Manfred making the selection.
With the first pick of the 2025 MLB draft, the Washington Nationals select Eli Willitts, a shortstop from Fort Cobb Broxton High School in Fort Cobb, Oklahoma. The Los Angeles Angels have the next pick.
Okay, so you say not a shock. We'll get the thoughts of everybody else. It's a bit of a surprise, and we'll get into his whole story. This was his vision. Amazingly, he authored this whole thing, did Eli Willitts.
Yeah, and comes from a baseball family, spent some time with him, wrote a feature about himself and Ethan Holiday, both from Oklahoma. He reclassified, so he is the youngest player that's going to be drafted today. Again, talking about what Jeff talked about, what analytical teams do. They take guys that make a lot of contact and are very young for their class. That is Eli Willitts to a T. There's a chance that he turns into a 2020 guy that can play shortstop. He's not the most obviously sort of football combine athletic guy. He is a baseball athletic guy.
2 things on this. One, an analytics strategy team Well, the Nationals really were never that under Mike Rizzo. So maybe that's changed now with Mike DiBartolo in charge. He's an analytics guy. He's the interim, but maybe he gets to stay on a full-time basis. And the other thing that's intriguing about this is he's a shortstop who could be ready in 3 years, which is about the time that C.J. Abrams' rookie deal runs out. So, Abrams already sent down to the minors late last year because he was in the casino hours before they had a game with the Cubs at the end of the season. And curiously, yesterday, Abrams didn't play. That's kind of unusual heading into the All-Star break. Your starting shortstop doesn't play in a game that, you'd like to win. They're not going anywhere this year. The loss yesterday, 11-1, drops them 20 games under 500. But, I wonder if this is the thinking here, that they will trade C.J. Abrams when he's still got something, left on his rookie deal of value and get some more prospects. And maybe they hope that by that time, Willitts will be ripened enough in the minor leagues to play. This is Mike DiBartolo towing the company line. He's not going to tell you we did this on the cheap. He's telling you this is the guy they want all along as Mike DiBartolo joined the MLB Network.
We couldn't be more excited. Eli, he's a special player, great hit tool, makes contact, controls the strike zone. We love his swing, switch hitter, just a clean operation at the plate and, with developing power. So, impact at the plate and then just an elite shortstop, somebody who stays at shortstop, somebody with great range, smooth hands, great arm, accurate. And then you add on top of that, just intangibles and confidence and work ethic, just maturity that's off the charts. So, you put all that together, it's rare to get someone that we think is the best hitter in the draft and the best fielder in the draft. And so we just felt that was an opportunity we couldn't pass up.
Hey, Mike, it's Dan O'Dowd. One, congratulations on the job and congratulations on the pick. Talking about jumping into the deep water right out of the gate with such little time in the role. I got to ask you, what role did you actually play in the selection?
Thanks, Dan. Being named interim GM on Sunday evening, ownership empowered me with making the decisions, in the draft and the trade deadline. And so, I flew back first thing on Wednesday morning from St. Louis with the team to meet with our amateur scouting leadership and just met with them nonstop through the week, starting first thing Wednesday morning. And we had great discussions and collaborative discussions and worked things through. And the nice thing was, there was agreement across the board that Eli was the number one player on our board and the guy that we wanted. And so that made things easier, and it's been a great collaborative effort.
Okay, so, no saying, oh, no, this is the guy we had all along. Not really. It doesn't sound that way. It was kind of like, yeah, okay, now that they put me in charge, this is kind of who they pushed us into drafting. I mean, again, he may turn out to be a Hall of Fame player. He may be the shortstop of the future. Not that they haven't had some roll through here before that have become pretty good players, and they don't want to pay them. But that's the plan here to draft a high school player and hope that he ripens, and then you'll have the 6 years of control and go from there. I still think that there is a possibility that the team is going to be sold in the offseason, and the axing of Rizzo and Davey right before they had options in their contracts for next year, I think are important. And that, if you're not really committed, there's no big Boris deal involved in signing the number one pick. I mean, that's what you do when you sell a business. You get the cost down as low as you possibly can, and nobody really under contract. DiBartolo's only under control for the rest of the year. So there's that. As for the react from Willitts, they had him on the MLB Network as well, and here's where you're going to hear where he had made a commitment not that long ago. Well, it couldn't have been that long ago. He's 17 and a half, for God's sakes, but made the commitment that he was at one point going to be the number one pick of the draft.
Well, it tells me two things. First of all, they're getting a really good player. I mean, he's a switch-hitting, pure shortstop.
That's not it.
Elite defensive.
This is it. This is Eli Willitts talking to the MLB Network about being selected number one.
I'm just excited. Thankful to the Nationals organization for giving me this chance. I want to thank God for everything, but at the end of the day, I'm just ready to get out there and get to work.
Hey, Eli, it's Dan O'Dowd. First of all, congratulations. Hey, man, I love your skill set. Just walk me through who you are as a player.
I'm just a player that's going to go out there and give everything I got, just like everyone else. I feel like I have a good hit ability, and I'm going to take that to the next level. And I feel like my power is up and coming, but I needed to get into an organization like the Nationals that can help develop that and take that to the next level.
Hey, Eli, it's Harold here. First off, give your dad a tissue for me because I know he's crying. What a powerful day and a statement. I want to ask you, how much of an impact was your dad working with you, developing you along the way here?
Oh, man, he's everything. I wouldn't be here without him. I wanted to tell him thanks and everything he did for me. He's been there since I was a little baby. We've hit since I could stand up, so I can't imagine not doing this without him.
Hey, Eli, Mark DeRosa here. First off, congratulations, man. What a moment for you. And I think, were you completely taken aback by this, or did you have an inkling this might go down?
I knew God could do something special. I wrote down 2 years ago in my Bible that I wanted to be the first overall pick. And just to see this come through, it's just the power of God and everything He's done for me.
A couple of things for what that's worth. The religious commitment that he has. Moses Malone, according to Lefty Drizel, wrote in his Bible that he wanted to be the first high schooler to go to the pros, and he did. To Lefty's disappointment, Lefty went all out to recruit him at Maryland. I think would have won at least one national championship with Moses, but Moses went to the ABA after attending one class at Maryland, got millions of dollars to do it, and he remained friends with Lefty throughout both of their lives. Moses actually died a few years before Lefty. So there's that. There's also something that that is really a funny story. It goes back to Earl Weaver when he was managing the Orioles, and outfielder Pat Kelly had asked for more time for a pregame prayer meeting. And he said, "Earl, don't you want us to walk with the Lord?" And Earl said, "I'd rather see you walk with the bases loaded." As far as, the skill set here, again, doesn't turn 18 until December 9th. Won a bunch of championships at Fort Cobb, Broxton High School in Oklahoma, their third straight title this past spring. They also play a fall schedule. They won 3 there. He's 6'1". He's a switch hitter. I love how they use the English language in these stories. This is an ESPN.com story. Willitts is hailed for his bat-to-ball skills and plate discipline and is considered a strong defensive shortstop. Translation, he can hit and he can field. That's all you really need to say there. 17 years old, 216 days, youngest player taken number 1 since the Mariners took Ken Griffey Jr. in 1987. I would say this. That Ken Griffey Jr. was on everybody's radar. I mean, everybody was talking about Ken Griffey Jr. going into that 1987 draft. That was very similar to Bryce Harper, who had been on the cover of Sports Illustrated in his sophomore year of high school. I guess he was actually a little bit older, though. It's amazing because he gave up his last 2 years of high school, played what should have been his junior year of high school in junior college so that he could get in under this draft window, and the Nationals took him number one in 2011. 2011 is when Bryce Harper was taken. So time will tell, and we can't really make any determination on whether this was a good pick or a bad pick probably for 5 years at least. I mean, even if he comes up and he comes up at 20, it could very well turn out like Jackson Holliday, who came up too early last year for the Orioles. They sent him back down, and now he's become a close to all-star level second baseman, and that's certainly what they hope for from Eli Willitts. All right, RG3 has his name back in the news for the wrong reasons again, and he's taken to task by Ryan Clark. We'll get to that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So I call this sports broadcasting's version of the Four Corners. Remember back before they had the shot clock, Phil Ford running the Four Corners for Dean Smith at North Carolina, where they were trying to run out the clock, and he was just taking advantage of the rules that were in place, and there was no shot clock. So if you had like a 6 or 7 point lead at the end of the game, you just salt it away by having Phil Ford dribble and pass it away, and the game would expire and they would win. Fortunately, the NCAA changed the rules, and we now have a shot clock. But this is what's going on is they're just waiting for all the training camp stuff to start, and things are going. I think a couple of teams are open for business. Commanders get the rookies in on Friday, and the veterans report a week from today. So we're getting close here. But Jeremy Fowler has polled a bunch of coaches, executives, and scouts around the league. Take this list for what it's worth. but he gives you his top 10 quarterbacks list. And I don't think anybody would argue with Patrick Mahomes, number one. I think Josh Allen would be a worthy number two. Joe Burrow, and I watched the whole quarterback series on Netflix over the weekend when I wasn't feeling good. I binge-watched that, and Joe Burrow was spectacular. The Bengals should have been in the playoffs. Their defense was horrendous, but he was great. So I have no argument with Burrow at 3. And then Lamar Jackson has won a couple of MVPs, so he's 4. They got Jaden Daniels up at 5, number 5 overall. And there doesn't seem to be any concern about a sophomore slump like C.J. Stroud had to some degree, although Houston did make the playoffs. But at 6, Matthew Stafford, who's won a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, who just a few years ago was considered to be a generational quarterback and may turn out to be, but has been somewhat of a disappointment for Jacksonville. Jared Goff, who was on a Super Bowl team and actually lost to Jaden Daniels the last time he played in a playoff game at Detroit. Justin Herbert is number 7. Let's see. I said Herbert 7, Goff 8. Jalen Hurts, who's won a Super Bowl, played in another one, 9. Baker Mayfield at 10. Mayfield back up to 10. That's a real resilient story because he wasn't exactly bust level, but he was released by a couple of teams. Cleveland cut him loose. Rams kicked the tires, and he's found new life and a new contract in Tampa Bay. So that's interesting. But to think that after 1 year, he's at 5. Caleb Williams not in the top 10. Jaden Daniels at number 5. RG3 probably thought at this point in his career he would be in the top 5, and there was every reason to believe that he would be after year 1. That was a spectacular rookie season. He threw 20 touchdown passes, only 5 interceptions, ran for 850 yards, and gave the NFL something it had never seen before. Changed really the way offenses were run. Couldn't have a running quarterback in the NFL. Well, he was a running quarterback. He didn't make the transition to being pocket passer that he wanted to be, and a lot is blamed on the knee injury. I don't buy all that. I think he just never learned the game like you need to learn it. Jaden Daniels being a tape nerd, getting in and watching tape at 5 o'clock in the morning, that's how you become a great quarterback. That's like they used to say about Tom Brady. It was won at the line of scrimmage before the snap. He would come to the line, Manning, some of these greats. They would assess exactly what the defense was set up in. They had watched enough tape to know that what they were going to do, and the decisions were made as to option 1, option 2, option 3, and they'd run through the progression, boom, boom, boom. RG3 would sit in the pocket, hold the ball, get sacked, try and run around, got hurt, all those different things. So it flamed out for him. And even now in his mid-30s, he delusionally talks about playing in the NFL. But what he wants more than anything is attention, and he doesn't care how he gets it. ESPN got tired of the act. They fired him with lots of time left on his contract. I guess he's supposed to do games for Fox this year. But he's trying to keep himself relevant on social media. And when he shows up for things like, where they had a Legends Day for every game for the Commanders this past year. He showed up for the Dallas game with a cowboy hat on, then went out on the field and made it about himself, stomped on the cowboy hat. It was all about me, 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 me. So now he's picked a feud with WNBA superstar Angel Reese, and he's claimed that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. And then it turned personal with Clark taking a shot at Griffin over his wife, which ultimately led to an apology from Clark, but she's not apologizing this time. Griffin shared a racist meme about Reese on X that received likes from time to time and amplified it to millions of followers. Griffin acknowledged it was wrong. He went on to bash Reese and say her actions led to death threats towards his family and loved ones. He then claimed people from Reese's inner circle called him to confirm that Reese does hate Clark, something which Angel's mother and Angel herself immediately called BS. That led to a social media firestorm in RG3's direction, with many calling him out for acting out of line. This was Ryan Clark who posted this on Instagram to tell you exactly how he feels about RG3, and I could not agree more.
RG3 seems to have this strange fascination with Angel Reese, or connection to the spotlight and attention that it brings, or who it brings those things from. I know now I don't get to speak on someone else's black experience or call something self-hate when I don't know how you truly connect to the community or the culture, or I can't assume that you see yourself in the thing that you push back against. But this one should have been easy. Angel Reese, this young, beautiful, talented, hardworking, successful black woman who is on an absolute tear in the WNBA, who has an opportunity now to unveil her own shoe, is depicted as a monkey in this graphic. A graphic I only saw on his page. So now his millions of followers can see this, and it should be easy to defend her against such deplorable hate and racism and bigotry and evil. But he couldn't do that. He had to make himself both the victim and the hero of this story. He had to mention that Angel Reese did something to him instead of acknowledging what he initially did to her. He had to be the champion again for Caitlin Clark, I guess against the young, angry black woman, by lying on her and her inner circle. So now Angel Reese, who should be in a celebration and trying to ignore the noise of all the evil and attacks that she feels every single day, has to come out along with her mother to shut down these lies and accusations from RG3. This should have been a situation where he comes up as human and says, we have to stop this. Because by his own admission, he says, if you don't support people that don't look like you, then you're a part of the problem. Let me be clear. If you never support people that look like you, you are also a part of the problem. God made us with the responsibility for inclusion and compassion and empathy and love for all people. We also have that same responsibility for our people. I know people were mad that I apologized for my initial statements, but I wanted to make sure people had clarity about what I was saying. But while we're on apologies, we all owe Rob Parker an apology, because though he was early, he was right about RG3.
Yeah, Rob Parker, who's, I guess, now with Fox, he's based out of Detroit. When he was working for ESPN, and he was kind of a rising star there at that point, and he was on one of the shows, and they were talking about RG3 when he was, I think, still at the top there, like having this fantastic rookie season. And Rob Parker called him a cornball brother. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but it inflamed a lot of people, and it led to Rob Parker being fired by ESPN. Now, you know, I don't know if that description or that term, you know, fits what Robert Griffin III is, but I will tell you this. My opinion of observing him is he is a malignant narcissist. He does anything to get attention. He is, of course, very upset, as anybody would be, that he was at the top of the mountain in the NFL, and now his phone doesn't ring, even when he claims it does. Like Rich Eisen had this charity race. You know how Eisen runs the 40 every year at the NFL Combine, and he put that into a charity event, and he had Robert Griffin run, and he supposedly ran a 4.5 or something, and Griffin said, oh, yeah, teams are calling me, but it's got to be the right fit. Nobody wants him. Nobody wants him. Nobody cares about him. He played 3 years with the Baltimore Ravens, and when he got to play, he got hurt. He just wasn't good, and then said this, which was just so stupid. He said, with winning Rookie of the Year and having the great year that I had with Washington, that doesn't compare to the thrill I got in developing Lamar Jackson into one of the premier quarterbacks in the NFL. Give me a break. A most disingenuous narcissist like we've never seen before. And now he's got this feud going with Angel Reese, which even she says is BS. Caitlin Clark says is BS. And it's all designed for RG3, like a moth to the flame, to see attention that can be had by jumping into something that probably isn't there. It's a rivalry between two great players, and if you want to insert race into it, go ahead, but both of them say, sorry, that's not the case. All right, next hour, more react to the Nationals' #1 pick, Eli Willitts, what the MLB experts are saying about that. And 40 years ago today, the last USFL game. It's the Andy Poland Show, ESPN 630. It was one of the strangest endings to a professional sports league that we've ever had. The USFL beat the NFL in court, but the damages that the court delivered to the USFL from the NFL was $1. And it was treble damages, so they walked away with $3. And that was the end of what was on its way to being, I think, a successful spring football league. They had a good contract with ABC and ESPN. It was gaining some traction, and a lot of big stars played in that league. There were close to 800 players who went on to play in the NFL from the USFL. But it didn't turn out that way. And 40 years ago today, we had the last game ever played, the championship game between the Oakland Invaders and the Baltimore Stars. And it was the Baltimore Stars that won the last championship, in case you're interested in such trivia. We'll look back on that coming up in just a little bit. I want to get to some baseball here. The reaction to the Eli Willitts pick by the Nationals last night, a surprise and maybe kind of a bargain basement kind of a deal. He's not represented by Scott Boras. That's only part of the picture. But I was talking about this. I was talking about Dr. J a little bit in the last hour. Charles Barkley was on with Dan Patrick, and he was telling the story. You've probably seen the picture, maybe even the video. It's one of the wildest moments in NBA history, given the two participants. Larry Bird was in his prime. This was like 87, I think. They win the championship that year. They played the Lakers that year. That was when they were either the Lakers or the Celtics were in the finals every year. And Bird was one of the best players in the league. Michael Jordan had not yet taken the torch from Magic and Bird at that point. And Dr. J was one of the classiest people the league has ever had. And, to think that Dr. J would choke Larry Bird. But that's what happened when he just got sick of his trash talking. And Barkley was a young player in those days, and he said that he said Bird was torching Dr. J and letting him know it, and Dr. J has just had enough. And then you see a picture of Barkley trying to pull Bird off of Dr. J, and he got fined for that and all that. But Dr. J was the most important figure in the history of the ABA. He put the ABA on the map, and he was the main reason for the merger. The merger took place 49 years ago, 1976, and 4 teams made it from the ABA into the NBA, including the team that Dr. J was on, which was at that time the New York Nets. It became the New Jersey Nets. The kind of the gift of the Magi story of all of this is the Nets had to pay territorial rights to the New York Knicks to get into the New York market. In other words, that was considered New York territory, so as compensation for being a secondary team, they had to pay him a lot of money. And the money that they got to pay the Knicks came from selling Dr. J to the Philadelphia 76ers for a reported $6 million. That's why Dr. J, who had always won 32 in his days at UMass and in the ABA with the Virginia Squires and the New York Nets, switched his number to number 6, the $6 million. 32 had been retired by Philadelphia for Billy Cunningham. Anyway, I saw this yesterday on Twitter. It says, rumor is the ABA docuseries on Amazon Prime will premiere in early 26 as part of the 50th anniversary of the final ABA season. Includes Dr. J, Spencer Haywood, Rick Barry, George Gervin, Hubie Brown, Artis Gilmore, and several members of the championship Pacers teams. And I wrote, and I got a lot of response on this from Twitter. Looking forward to this, but the best ABA book is Loose Balls, written in 1990 by Terry Pluto, who never saw a game. And the best ABA resource is Peter Vesey, who saw many and knows or knew many of the players, including Dr. J. They were good friends, as a matter of fact. I think Peter Vesey was best man in Dr. J's wedding. And they had there was a Rucker League team that was coached by Vesey. He may have even played on it. He was a tough guy, former Navy SEAL, and he and Dr. J became very good friends. And so there's legendary tape or film of Dr. J playing in Rucker Park. You wouldn't do that today. But, that was all part of the lure of the ABA, that they brought this high-flying game that had not been a part of the NBA, and the three-point shot, the red, white, and blue ball. I mean, it was really something to see. I only saw one game in person. It was at the Washington Coliseum when we had the Washington Caps for 1 year. and that was Rick Barry and Larry Brown, the famous Larry Brown as a coach. He was a point guard on that team. They had a tough guard named Warren Jabali. They were a good team, and Barry got hurt that year. Otherwise, they might have won the ABA championship because they had won it the year before as the Oakland Oaks. But I love the ABA. I love the stories about it. That book, if you haven't read Loose Balls, it's a terrific book. Really terrific book. Terry Pluto did a lot of great research on this, and for somebody who never saw the game, he had a great feel for it. And it's it's mostly stories. That's what happens. You got like a young Bob Costas who gets a job doing the Spirits of St. Louis, and the Marvin Barnes stories, and Marvin Barnes missing a team flight and chartering a plane and walking into the locker room in a mink coat and his full uniform and takes off his coat and he says news is here because they called him Marvin Bad News Barnes from his days in Providence. So I am looking forward to that, and just wanted to throw in a little bit of ABA recognition there. That'll happen sometime early next year. As for more react from the draft last night, it was a surprise to many that when the Nationals made their top pick, they did not take the shortstop that most had expected them to take. And that was Ethan Holiday, who's Jackson Holiday's brother. Jackson Holiday plays for the Orioles. He's a second base, a marginal. Almost made the All-Star game this year. Maybe should have made the All-Star game. And the feeling is that Ethan Holiday will be as good or maybe even better as a player for them. But they passed on him. They also had Kyle Anderson, left-handed pitcher from LSU. And when Mike Rizzo ran the organization, the thinking was get as much pitching as you can. So they thought maybe they might take one of those. Those are both Boras clients, Scott Boras clients. Eli Willitts is not a Boras client, and there's $11 million set aside to sign the number one pick. There's a feeling that without Boras, maybe they can get him for a little bit less money, which may have played into this. This is part of the react last night on the MLB network with the Nationals making that number one pick, led off by commentary from Dan O'Dowd.
Well, it tells me two things. First of all, they're getting a really good player. I mean, he's a switch-hitting, pure shortstop, elite defensive actions. I think he sees the game really well as a player. I love his bat-to-ball skills, his pitch recognition, how he gets on plane way earlier. I mean, it's a projection, though, on a 17-year-old kid from a physicality standpoint to ultimately, how high his ceiling was going to be. So that's the one thing it tells me. The second thing it tells me, the Nationals are looking at this draft from a totality standpoint. Is that, how do they utilize this pick to set up the rest of their draft as relates to the bonus pool money that they have to work with? So I think that's the two stories that I come out of this selection with.
Yeah, you're talking about a 17-year-old. I remember being in the Seattle Mariner organization, and we drafted a 17-year-old named Ken Griffey Jr. So that was a great pick at 17. I think it's a totally different player. We'll see how this develops. Interesting pick.
It's shocking. Carlos Collazo, I want to go to you on this. Fans are initially going to go, okay, so they cut a deal. This is a financial decision. What do you think of Willitts going number one overall?
I think it fits perfectly. I mean, he's number 3 on our board. We think he's the most well-rounded player in this class. There's no real question mark or hole in his game that I see. It's above average or solid tools across the board. I think he's an above-average hit. I think he's above-average defender at shortstop. He's a plus runner. He's going to get nitpicked a little bit on the power department, but I think he's got enough bat speed. He has enough feel for the barrel that he's going to get to solid power moving forward. I think this is one of the safer profiles of the hitters in the class and who is always in the mix. I'm really curious to see who that second pick for the Nationals is going to be now at 49. I imagine whoever they were taking here was going to be on an underslot deal, but now I'm more intrigued to see who's going to be 49.
Carlos, you know what I think? I think Mike DeBartolo saw our pie chart. He's like, I'm not going to follow what these guys think I'm going to do. This was our pie chart, who we thought was most likely to go one of one. 50% Kate Anderson, Ethan Holiday 30%, Eli Willitts at 10%. D-Row, he goes number one overall. Are you shocked by this?
Yeah, I'm a little shocked by this. I love the upside. Listen, there's bloodlines there, the same with Matt Holiday and Ethan Holiday. I think the biggest thing for me when I watch Eli Willitts, we always played a comp game. He looks like an energized Stephen Drew to me back in the day. Stephen Drew went first round, 15th overall. Look at his dad. He could get down the line. You had to pick it and get rid of it when Reggie was running. So he's grown up around the game. I love the bat-to-ball skills like Dan was saying. Jump in, Tone.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned playing the game with energy. He was with Team USA. Those guys were down in Mexico. He gets in late at night and then arrives at the area code games, which is basically like the McDonald's All-American game, goes out and makes everyone look like they're in a different caliber than he is. And then another area where he showed that was practicing with OU's players. His brother is going to OU, his dad coaches there, and he was around those guys, and a lot of college players said there were days where he looked like he was the best player amongst that group. So I get where it's a surprise because this desk thought it was Holiday, but very, very smart people in the Midwest said there's the same value between Holiday and Willitts, similar backgrounds, it's just different tool set.
Well, I think if I'm going high school shortstop, there's not even a question Ethan Holiday's the pick. But if they want to go the route they're working, maybe saving money or going a different direction, I get it. But if it comes down to high school, college, all that debate, there's not a debate. Ethan Holiday would have been the best pick. Now they got Willitts. This is the guy they wanted. And congratulations to him. He moves on. He's 17 years old. A lot to work with and move on. But I have to say, if I'm going high school shortstop, we listed a lot of guys. Ethan Holiday still sits at the top.
I will say, though, Greg talked about in the pregame show, I think you can dream on this guy being Frankie Lindor.
Yeah.
I mean, Frankie physicality at this age wasn't great. He moves really well in the box. I mean, I'd put a Luis Perdomo on him. Yeah. I thought he was more like that. That's to me of his floor. The interesting thing about this kid for me is that we can argue about his ceiling all night long. I think it's a really good floor because he really understands how to play the game. Yeah. I think his skills are good, but I think he's a winning player. And so I don't think at times in our industry we give enough credit to players who fall into that category because all we want to talk about is ceilings all the time.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's missing in the game is guys that know how to play the game of baseball.
Okay, so all this is speculation right now, and all this is speculation about a player who is going to be in the major leagues probably no sooner than 3 years. So they got some time on this. But I think what you're hearing from Harold Reynolds, and he's not an expert on prospects in high school and college, but he's telling you that the sure bet was Ethan Holiday. But it's going to be more expensive because he's a Boras client, Scott Boras client. So maybe they went with a cheaper option here who they think can be as good. But they're saying, yeah, the floor is important here. Well, you don't want the floor. You want the ceiling. You want the ceiling to be potential Hall of Famer. The Bryce Harper kind of a pick at number one. The Ken Griffey Jr. pick, which was the previous youngest player picked at 17. To the Marlins to the Mariners, and he came up, I think it was 1989. So that's a long time ago, and whether he in the future becomes anywhere near that, we'll have to see. But what it sounds like is, the organization that claims that they're willing to spend the money doesn't really want to spend the money. And they've got this $11 million slot to sign him, but maybe they think they can go below that. They also said they were interested in who was going to go number 49. That is Ethan Petrie. He's an outfielder, first baseman, University of South Carolina, played 3 years there. A lot of power, 6'4", 235 pounds, hurt this past year, which may actually have dropped him. It worked out with Anthony Rendon. Anthony Rendon, when they were talking about him as being a number one pick, he fell to like 6 with the Nationals, and that worked out for them. Didn't work out for the Angels when he left here, but was a key part of that World Series championship team. So we'll see. Will that be a factor down the road? But he's 49. He's not taken in the first round. He's a second round pick, and then with their third round, they've got the rest of the draft. They go up to I think 20 rounds now. Rest of it takes place today and tomorrow. But they took at 80 overall a high school pitcher named Landon Harmon, 6'5". Throws 99. Everybody throws 99, and then they blow out their arms. So we'll see where that goes. A little bit of follow-up on something we talked about last week, and this was some reporting that was done by Don Van Natta following up what Pablo Torre had opened up on his podcast, Pablo Torre Finds Out. And what he found out was that there was a 61-page document that he got his hands on, which was a suit filed by the NFL Players Association against the NFL owners alleging collusion. And they had conversations on text between owners that there was congratulations that Kyler Murray got a contract without fully guaranteed money. What they were all afraid of, the owners, was after the Cleveland Browns gave Deshaun Watson that $230 million fully guaranteed contract in 2022, that was going to open up the door that all the other franchise quarterbacks were going to get fully guaranteed money. And they managed to hold the line on that, and the Players Association said, wait a minute, I think we got some collusion going on here. And the process went to an arbitrator who said that, he felt like there was evidence that that the NFL players did show a clear preponderance of evidence that there was action by the NFL owners to collude on this. They just didn't have enough evidence to rule against the owners, and the suit was dropped, and it quietly went away. It wasn't like there was an appeal, which there surely was grounds for. And more importantly, the NFL players never got a look at this. Well, it seems that C.J. Treader, who is the head of the Players Association, had said, and this was documented in the 61-page report, he had ripped Russell Wilson for screwing it up for everybody else for agreeing to a contract that didn't have fully guaranteed money. So they didn't want it out there that they were fighting amongst themselves. Also, there may be a conflict of interest here going on in that the new executive director of the NFL Players Association, Lloyd Howell, who works for the Carlyle Group, which was founded by David Rubenstein, may have been involved in working to get an NFL franchise. So he's sort of working on the ownership side of this, and now there is talk that they will ask him to resign. Now, the Players Association, according to ESPN, is holding the line on this, and they put out a statement. As members of the NFLPA Executive Committee, we categorically reject false reporting insinuating doubts within this committee or suggestions that we have asked our executive director to step down. We further reject attempts to mischaracterize the committee's views on our divide of membership. This was a statement that was given to Adam Schefter. We have established a deliberate process to carefully assess the issues that have been raised and will not engage in a rush to judgment. We believe in and remain committed to working with our executive director and other members of the NFLPA staff and player leadership who have a shared mission to advance the best interest of the players. As we approach the 2025 season, we look forward to continuing our important work together and ensuring strength and unity of our association. Pablo Torre said on the Dan Le Batard podcast last week this about what is going on here and what the players should have been doing with this information.
Frankly, if you're a player who signed a new deal in 2021 when all this stuff was happening, it's about the offseason of 2021, where guys getting guarantees. The answer, turns out, was no. Full guarantees. No one got them. They should be contemplating what is our legal recourse. I've talked to lawyers now who are wondering, when is the next shoe to drop going to be a lawsuit? When will, I don't want to get ahead of myself here because we're still reporting the story.
Justin Herbert could sue the league, could sue the union, could he not?
Justin Herbert, who was named in the text exchange between Michael Bidwill and Dean Spanos, the owner of the Chargers, Bidwill, the Cardinals owner, in which they are basically celebrating how they didn't give Kyler Murray full guarantees, which then helps Dean Spanos and the Chargers to not give Justin Herbert the full guarantees. I would imagine that guy logically would have a bone to pick, especially Dan. The extra layer of crazy on all of this is that those players that we've been naming, and this is Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Justin Herbert, the four big stars named in this thing, they were never told or shown what was in the document that was about their livelihoods until I published it. They had never heard it. The union had never told them. They had never shown them. And so there is actively, I think, a would-be grievance if they choose to pursue it. But also, clearly, the union is behind the scenes on fire right now in every figurative sense. And I think everyone's running around trying to cover their own ass.
Yeah, and these reports that the players are looking to oust Lloyd Howell as the executive director, that's one thing. On top of that, this is what Torre says the players should actually be doing and who they should be trying to oust right now.
The 8 owners who were named in this and others, one might presume. I would be calling for Roger Goodell's job. Now, will that happen in real time? I doubt that. But that is actively what the leverage that the union might have had here is. They could have gone to Capitol Hill. They could have called for hearings. They could have made an enormous public display of look at what we're dealing with heading into our next CBA, is that the leadership of the NFL itself is doing this stuff. And so I'm not predicting, I'm merely saying that this is actually concretely in the document part of the conversation.
Yeah, and the one thing they have done 6 months later, thanks to this reporting by Pablo Torre, is the NFL Players Association has filed an appeal of this arbitrator's ruling, throwing out the suit by the Players Association against the owners alleging collusion. That has finally happened. But the NFL, they always manage to out-lawyer people, and they have said to the Players Association, okay, file your suit here, but if you lose this, we're going to hit you with $12 million in legal fees, trying to scare them away. Coming up, the story of a league that was out-lawyered by the NFL and shut down after the last game that the league played 40 years ago today. We'll get to that backstory and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So you remember the USFL had a 3-year run? The legacy of it is incredible. Like a lot of leagues that come and go, they leave behind some incredible stories. And I remember it very well. In fact, a very good friend of mine was working in television in San Antonio when they were trying to get a USFL team. And he started a campaign called WWPB, We Want Pro Ball. And I think he was instrumental in helping to attract the San Antonio Gunslingers who came in when the USFL started. And, they were they had their issues. And like a lot of teams, they had money problems. They had other things. But, a football crazed city, mostly high school. They have a couple of small college teams that play in that area. They thought, we can kind of hit the big time. We got the San Antonio Spurs, and let's get pro football. We can do this with the USFL. There have been talk that teams would move there. The Raiders flirted with there. I think 1 year in the Alamo Dome when Katrina happened. I think the Saints played there 1 year. But anyway. They left behind of stories, and one of them was about a player who played for them named Big Paper. And in the book that Jeff Pearlman wrote 7 years ago, can't believe it's been 7 years, it says it was the title of the book was Football for a Buck. And he talked about the rise and fall of the league. And the Big Paper story was one of those that he told while promoting the book on the Rich Eisen show 7 years ago.
One of the stars of USFL was this guy, Greg Fields. His nickname was Big Paper, and was with the LA Express. John Hadel was the head coach, and he cut Big Paper. And Big Paper reached across the desk and punched him in the face. And the team ended up hiring Liberace's security guard because he was calling death threats to the coach. Long story, but he ended up with the Gunslingers, and he followed the owner of the Gunslingers home with a baseball bat after he stopped paying players and walked away with $17,000 in cash. So, Big Paper.
Wow!
I told you there'd be good stories about this one. Where is Big Paper today? Do we know?
Yeah, we do, because no one could find him. But my son Emmett is 9 years old, and we tracked him down. We had two addresses: me, my 9-year-old kid, Big Paper, who hit his coach with the bait or threatened his coach.
Yes.
Wound up at a Sacramento shopping mall eating Cold Stone Creamery in a food court, having a great conversation about the USFL.
So you and your son tracked down Big Paper.
Bad parenting moment for me.
Not the son, let's go track down a man who once followed an owner with a baseball bat and got $17,000 in cash. Did you tell your son Big Paper's story?
I did. He knew all about Big Paper. And we actually, I hate to say, we had two addresses. One of them was deep in the projects, and the other was not in the project, but I had him walking all over, we found him.
Yeah, so that's one of the stories. There's many more. I'd urge you to read the book if you have any interest in the USFL. It is the definitive book about the USFL, just like Loose Balls by Terry Pluto is the definitive book about the ABA, which will celebrate the merger with the NBA next year, 50 years. But anyway, the league did manage to play 3 full seasons with teams folding up, teams moving. Like we had the Washington Federals here for 2 years. I went to one of their games, actually against the Gunslingers. They had 3,000 people at RFK Stadium. I mean, it was amazing. And they moved to Orlando. And the owner of the team, Burl Bernard, who was clearly underfinanced, once referred to his players as a bunch of trained gerbils. And we had this kind of thing, like in the first championship game, the Michigan Panthers beat the Philadelphia Stars with two rookies, Bobby Hebert and Anthony Carter. Anthony Carter had been a big star at the University of Michigan, went on to have a great career with the Detroit Lions later on. But teams ran into financial problems. Michigan ended 1984 with a triple overtime loss to the LA Express in the Coliseum. The Panthers merged with the Oakland Invaders prior to 1985, with Hebert and Carter becoming starters for Oakland. Then the Baltimore Stars, who had started out as the Philadelphia Stars, had to vacate their offices in Veterans Stadium because they couldn't pay the rent. They had to play their games in Maryland. It was supposed to be at Memorial Stadium, which was still in place in those days, but they couldn't get things together. So they played at the University of Maryland. They had to travel 3 hours by bus to play every home game at Byrd Stadium because Memorial Stadium wouldn't take them. But, they became the Baltimore Stars for what would turn out to be the final season in 1985. And, in fact, it kind of worked out for a championship game, although players, weren't getting paid and there were money problems all over the league. But they had a nice TV contract with ABC. And are you listening, NFL players? They played an 18-game regular season, which culminated on this day at the Meadowlands in New Jersey for the championship game between the Oakland Invaders and the Baltimore Stars, with over 49,000 people in attendance, and the great Keith Jackson calling the game on ABC.
The game is in the books. The Baltimore Stars have defeated the Oakland Invaders by a score of 28 to 24. And all the credit in the world to that young man right there, Jim Moore. Kelvin Bryant finishes the ball game with 23 carries, and the last 3 were useful only in running out the clock. They were not trying to make any yards. He picked up 103 yards running and scored 3 touchdowns. And it was the kind of a football game we thought it would be. Tough, bodies flying, sellout time on both sides of the field for all the players. And it wound up a 4-point decision.
Yeah, and Kelvin Bryant became one of 778 players to come from the USFL and play in the NFL. And he actually was a big contributor to that Super Bowl championship team with Doug Williams after the 87 season. He was hurt a lot, but he did play for the Redskins for 5 years, from 1986 to 1990, after a great career at the University of North Carolina. Also coming out of that league and playing for Washington, Mark Addix, who's now one of the most highly respected orthopedic surgeons in the country, Harvard trained, was a backup offensive lineman on the Hogs on their last Super Bowl team, played in Washington 90 and 91. Coy Bacon, who played just about everywhere. He played for the Skins from 78 to 81, then played with the Federals before they went out of business, or they cut him, whatever. He was gone. Remember Fast Eddie Brown running through the muck and rain at RFK Stadium? I think it was 1976. He was with the Skins from 75 to 77, and then when George Allen became the coach of the Chicago Blitz, later became the Arizona Wranglers, he played for both teams. He stayed with George for 3 years with that. There was Danny Lightning Bugs with the Skins from 76 to 79. He played with the San Antonio Gunslingers. In fact, I remember interviewing him when they played at RFK Stadium. Two of the best finds, Gary Clark, who played in the USFL. Bobby Beathard had gotten his draft rights. Huge contributor. I think should be in the Hall of Fame. Played for the Skins from 85 to 92. Fred Dean, who actually was the starting guard in that first Super Bowl. Mark May, the number 1 pick of the draft, was on the bench, didn't play. Fred Dean started at guard. He went to the USFL after that Super Bowl, got paid. And Doug Williams, came here after the league folded in 1986, was a backup for 1 year, and then had his magical year in 1987 before leaving in 1990. There were 4 players who played in the USFL who made the Hall of Fame. Jim Kelly, Reggie White, who may be the best defensive player of all time, probably 1A with Lawrence Taylor, Steve Young, Hall of Famer, and Gary Zimmerman, who had a long career as a tackle with the Denver Broncos, He also played in the USFL. There were 3 others who made the Hall of Fame, 2 as coaches. Marv Levy, who had actually been a special teams coach at one point here with the Redskins under George Allen. George Allen made the Hall of Fame, and Bill Polian, who was the architect of a bunch of Super Bowl teams, including the Colts one that was won with Peyton Manning. He made it to the Hall of Fame. So you got 4 players and 2 coaches and 1 general manager coming out of the USFL. And then you had, some other big names, Doug Flutie, Herschel Walker, probably the most significant player in the history of the league in that he was the first to leave college after 3 years, got this enormous contract, not from Donald Trump. He got it from J. Walter Duncan. And J. Walter Duncan then sold the team after 1 year to Donald Trump, and thus began the downfall of the league. And as Jeff Pearlman outlined in promoting his book on The Rich Eisen Show, this is what Trump did to take the league down. It's also chronicled in a documentary, a 30 for 30, called Small Potatoes, which is what Trump used to call the league that he was a part of behind the scenes.
Donald Trump bought the New Jersey Generals heading into the second season. And in the lead up to buying it, he said, I love the USFL. USFL is great. I love this league. As soon as he gets the Generals, we need to move to fall. This is embarrassing, blah, blah, blah. He had a secret meeting in the Pierre Hotel with Pete Rozelle, the NFL commissioner at the time, paid for the suite, and said to him, I don't really care about the USFL. I want an NFL franchise. What do I have to do to get in the NFL? Basically offering to throw the USFL under the bus if it meant he could get an NFL team. And Rozelle said to him straight up, as long as I'm the commissioner of this league, as long as my family has anything to do with this league, you will never be a part of the NFL.
What he told him to his face?
Told him to his face in a meeting at the Pierre Hotel. And Trump, say what you want. The guy's resilient. He is. He does not stop.
That's for sure.
He convinced the other owners in USFL that fall, the TV deal that would be waiting for them in fall, would be massive. And he lied and said that he had meetings with all these fall executives, TV executives, and they were really excited about it. And he was the owner of the biggest franchise in USFL. Washington, it kind of failed. LA, it kind of failed. Chicago, it kind of failed. New York, they had a contract with ESPN and ABC. They had to have a New York franchise. So Trump had an, overvalued sort of presence. Mm-hmm. He convinced the other owners to move to fall. They famously sued the NFL. He guaranteed the other owners they would win the lawsuit. He guaranteed they would win.
And they did.
They won $1.
Times 3.
They could have won $1.3 billion. They won $3.
Okay, so let's put that aside for a quick second. So, do you think now? Again, this is nothing to do with politics at all. Zero to do with politics. Do you think that any of the NFL bashing that the president is currently doing was born out of the moment in that Pierre Hotel meeting that you just told me about? That the NFL said you will never be part of this league.
Oh, I mean, it's preposterous. I mean, he tried buying the Baltimore Colts in 1980 and failed. He met with Pete Rozelle, failed. He said he would sue the league, failed. Tried buying the Buffalo Bills, failed. Put in a half-baked effort to get the New England Patriots, failed. For a guy who hates the NFL, he has made repeated efforts to get in the NFL. And I always think that's kind of telling. Also, when he was the owner of the Generals, and this has been documented, he did business during the national anthem. He would be on calls during the national anthem. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure both of us have worked in press boxes during the anthem where you have a call or something, it happens. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea that this is about patriotism is, to me, it's just laughable.
Football for a buck, the crazy rise and crazier demise of the USFL, the author Jeff Pearlman here. But that said, Trump said we will win a lawsuit, and he did. But did anybody see coming the possibility that the damages that they would receive would be one singular American dollar that gets trebled because of the rule?
The check still exists.
Where is that check right now?
Right now, I think it's at the Pro Football Hall of Fame because they have a USFL exhibit right now. It's usually in a bank vault in Memphis. Because the number 2 guy in the league was a guy named Steve Earhart, and he got the check, and he keeps it.
He never cashed it.
No, never cashed it. It's great.
A $3 check.
It was. I think it's $3.76 to be precise.
Why did it get? Why was it only $1?
Oh, so basically what happened is
because if it was a serious amount of money, USFL would have survived. Would have absolutely survived.
So basically what happened is this trial goes on, and what they were suing the NFL for, what they were saying is the NFL was monopolizing television, and the NFL was plotting to destroy the USFL. Both those things were 100% true. The NFL was monopolizing fall TV, and they did have these documents talking about what do we need to do to kill this league. Because if you remember, the USFL got 3 straight Heisman Trophy winners, Herschel Walker, Mike Rozier, Doug Flutie. They stole Doug Williams from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They stole Brian Sipe. They got Herschel Walker. Like, it was on and on and on.
What do you mean stole?
No, I stole. stole is the wrong word. Like Doug Williams is a perfect example. He was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer quarterback. I think he was the 48th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. At the time, there was no unrestricted free agency. There was nowhere to go. Hugh Culverhouse he hated, and Hugh Culverhouse refused to trade him. He had nowhere to go. Well, the Oklahoma Outlaws come along and say, we'll pay you money to come here. Great. The NFL viewed this all as an attack on the NFL. Like they saw it strictly as this. They are attacking us. They're making this hard on us. Salaries are skyrocketing because we have to match. So the NFL is going out of their way to kill off the USFL. They want it gone. And they have this lawsuit. And the jury decides, you are right. The USFL is correct. The NFL is monopolizing TV.
Yes.
I mean, the NFL is monopolizing TV. The NFL is going out of its way to kill the USFL. But, and I interviewed one of the jurors about the trial, it was fascinating. But the USFL is its own worst enemy, and moving to fall is stupid. They had they hired an outside research group to present to they paid $600,000 for a marketing group to present league owners about fall versus spring.
Yeah.
And this woman gave this long presentation to all the USFL owners gathered around a table and said, the dumbest thing you can do is move to fall. And Donald Trump was the first one to stand up and say, you're full of crap. We need to move to fall right now. It was just preposterous.
So when you interviewed the juror, why did they come up with $1? Why did they do that?
Well, she said they had to. The NFL was guilty, but the NFL didn't actually do anything to cause USFL's ultimate plight. So they gave a reward to them because they were right and guilty, but they just decided to give the minimum reward.
But that's like, hey, I'm going to, I appreciate this,
I get it.
Like I don't appreciate the service, but I know I got to tip you. Here's 10 cents.
That's basically what it was. Honestly, that's basically what. And the best part is Donald Trump is sitting in the courtroom, and John Mara was the owner of the Giants at that point.
Oh, sure, still.
And he's sitting next to Donald Trump. And John Mara opens up his suit jacket, pulls out his wallet, takes out a dollar bill, and hands it to Trump. It's like the greatest moment ever.
Gotta love that. So that's the rise and fall of the USFL, which played its last game 40 years ago today. Amazingly, the legacy of the league lasted another 20 years. There were two players who played in the USFL who were still active in the 2005 season. One of them I know a little bit, Sean Lendetta, who was a part of that Baltimore Stars championship team, which won the championship 40 years ago today, beating the Oakland Invaders. And the other one was Doug Flutie. And that was the year that Flutie drop-kicked an extra point, when Bill Belichick kind of let his hair down during that year. So Flutie was 43 years old, backup quarterback to Tom Brady in 2005. And Sean Lendetta punted 6 games for the Philadelphia Eagles, also at the age of 43, the last vestiges of the USFL, which, again, folded up shop after losing that suit in the summer of 1985, not long after the championship game, which was 40 years ago today. All right, Bram is off today. He'll be off all week. I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.